This chapter is entitled Starting the Project File, and what we're really focusing on is just starting this right from zero, doing a project right from the beginning, and using industry best practices. And these are for very small projects and very, very large multi-team, multi-office projects. A lot of what we're going to be looking at here can be applied to any one of those. So let's look at the things that we must do first. This is a bit of a review. We did cover this quite thoroughly in the fundamentals video, but it's really worth looking at again. The workflow that we're going to be working on with this project, it is a small file, it is a residential project, but again, we're trying to apply industry best practices. So whether it's for an industrial building or for, a multi-site, a campus, what we're looking at here is a general best practice when dealing with Revit and starting Revit from scratch and starting a project. We're going to be starting a Revit file just for the site. So it's going to have its own file just for the site. Then we're going to be making a Revit file just for the building. Then we're going to bring the two together. So then there'll be a nice clean file for both. So what are some best practices when starting a project file in Revit? Well, number one, you want to choose the correct template. What does that mean? Metric or imperial. That's your basic choice. And if you get that wrong from the beginning, you're always going to be moving upstream on that. Revit does a wonderful job working with both metric and imperial, but all they ask you is start from the right template and things will go smoothly along the way. The next thing that you want to look at, and this can be done in different order, but identify the project origin and then set your levels. That is going to be critical that we identify that and exactly what that is. Now the levels, that's also very, very important because that's our building. It's all based upon the levels. Okay, so let's get started in Revit. So here we are, Revit 2012 architecture. We're going to go to the application menu and we're going to go to new. We're not going to the new button right here because that's automatically going to just start a project file from the default template. We don't want that right now. We want to make sure that we're using our correct template. So we're going to go application menu, go to new, go to project, and then we're going to find our template file. Let's click on browse. We're going to go into that little folder that we had made. If you just drag and drop a folder onto the sidebar, it will appear and you'll always have that available for you on the sidebar. Okay, so let's click on that. Okay, good. So let's go to 0213 template imperial complete. Okay, so that's where we left off. That's our template and it's imperial. So we've identified that that will be the units that we're using and away we go. So we say open. It doesn't open the template file. It opens a project file, which is based upon that template file. It comes to the default starting page, which was this drafting view, which we called project notes. And that can be found right here. Drafting views detail. We called it starting view and it's project notes. Now we can get rid of all this stuff. So a lot of this was just sample text or just to help us along the way as we made our template. So first thing we're going to be doing is setting up our Revit site file. We'll keep track of things as we go in the project notes. The next thing that we were going to do was identify the project origin. And where do we find that? Well, we actually find that by default, you're going to find that under Site. So if you go in your project browser, under Floor Plans, just go to Site, and you'll see it right there. Now, we see a bunch of other stuff here too, so that's a little bit disconcerting. We don't want this other stuff. That was just sample things that we drew. So let's just go through our views and make sure that we delete those things that we drew as samples. So level 1, I'm just going to window everything, hit delete. I'm okay with just deleting all those extra views and things. That's fine. This extra view here is level 1 black lines. I think we can delete that as well. And top of finished floor 2. We'll discuss the levels in a minute. Right now, we're just focusing on that site view and that right there. Just to review, the circle is the project base point. That's really the most critical thing. There's a circle there and there's a triangle there. Industry best practice, what we have found is don't move this. There's a lot of things that you can do in Revit as far as shared coordinates and things like that. We find if you just keep this in one location and base your whole project off of a common 0, 0, in the end, it works out to be much better. Okay, so we've identified our 0, 0. We're not going to move it. We're just going to mark it. So let's go to our ref plane. That was in the Home tab. And then I'll just click right dead center, and then I'll draw a ref plane up. And then what it will do is it'll actually capture that middle point as a tracking point. Just click on that and then move your cursor to the right, and you'll see that you can just click again, and now it's starting to draw the ref plane. I'm going to just click over to there, hit escape twice, and now I'm going to click on my reference planes and just extend them beyond a little bit. So that's my 0, 0 right there. And why did I draw ref planes? Well, because you can see them in every view, whereas the project base point, sometimes it's hidden in different views. And if it is hidden, usually you can just see it by turning on or off the light bulb and it'll be there. Okay, so let's click on these reference planes and let's pin those. That way they can't be dragged by accident. All right, very good. Well, we've got our project origin located, and this is something that you need to determine. What does that mean? What is 0, 0? And we're going to look at a scenario in this project, but every project's really going to be different. Usually what we found is the 0, 0 is some hard point on the site, whether it's a survey stake, whether it's an existing building, maybe top of foundation of existing building on the site. Whatever it is, you usually want it to be a measurable object on the site rather than just a grid, because the grids don't exist on the site. So you want it generally to be that. You don't take the 0, 0 from the surveyor. Usually their 0, 0s are way, way beyond Revit's scope of units that it can use. So we're going to look at this in a practical way with this project. So just trust me on that you're going to set the 0 for the project. It's going to be on or near the building, and you're not going to move it. It's going to be right here, and we're going to draw from there.